It is very important because this is only possible when you can understand our attitude, our approach, so that you can face it further and you can take the student to the next level. When we are discussing this, there is one more approach at the end I want to elaborate, and that is this is the basis of the student for the science. And because of that, don't burden the student with so many formulations. Don't burden the student with going for the information which is unnecessary, unwanted, and unrelevant or non relevant in this concern. We are going to approach the student with a disaster management. We are going to approach the student with understanding about the matter which is present around him. And through all these aspects which we are considering, which are present around him, yes, we can raise the curiosity. Ultimately, our goal is to raise the scientific temperament of the student. And with this firm basis of the scientific temperament, scientific approach, and scientific attitude, we can teach the science in much more better way in coming days ahead. And so, dear friends, I feel that this particular role which we have decided, the committee has decided, can be only fruitful by your support, by your responsible, positive role, and your motivation. Let me tell you one thing, that students are nothing but these are the images what we see, but we have to convert these images into the objects which are having the firm shape, obviously, and the firm senses. And this is only possible by your cooperation. So I hope that with this book, you people will be enjoying the science, and I hope that you people will be making the science more and more enjoyable, more and more knowledgeable, and more sensible. I wish you all the best. I hope that any queries in this regard, they are most welcome. Thank you.
Hello everybody. Myself Preeti Khandelwal. I am a teacher in Dr. D.Y. Patil Public School, Pimpri. I am here to focus on certain aspects of Standard 6 textbook science which deals with certain things of the curriculum, objectives and syllabus. Now, before I may begin with the discussion, let us start our discussion with the word science. Let's see in this slide. The very first slide that you are able to see puts up the beginning question to you, that what is science? Dear teachers, if you have seen all the textbooks up to now, that is standard 1 to 5, you are aware that science is in the form of environment education is introduced to the students. They have studied it from standard 3, that is standard 3, 4 and 5. They learnt it as a part of it. But now in standard 6, it is studied under the heading of science. Now, when we talk about it, what is science basically? What images come to us when we talk about science? The word science probably brings various images in front of our mind. Maybe the bulky textbooks, the people with the white coats, or dealing with the microscopes, astronauts with various equipments, and so on. So, should we call it as a science? Yes, it is one aspect of science, but it is not the complete science. It is just a facet of it. So, when we talk about it, let's talk about science. It talks to us as the part of the ever-ending learning, and it is the body of knowledge and a continuous process. Every time there is a lot of knowledge added to it, there are updations, modern technology, and all these things bring it to the ever ending learning process. And it is always considered as an exciting subject and ongoing process which includes the people all over the universe, and that is why it is applicable. And as we'll proceed and ahead, when we are going through various slides, you'll come to know that even the education committee and the various committees focused about bringing about changes in the curriculum of science. It was largely talked of. So, this is what the background is for naming and studying this as a separate branch. And as we talk about it further, you will be able to see in the next slide where it talks about the background behind this new curriculum introduced and a textbook that is based on this new curriculum. So when we talk about the curriculum and the background for it in this slide, you are able to see the very first thing that talks to you about National Curriculum Framework. So, to the background of it, I would like to talk about the various national curriculum frameworks and the curriculums that were introduced by the Maharashtra state. If we talk about it, the beginning of school education is an important aspect of the child's personality because it is the school which brings in the development into the personality of a child. And curriculum plays an important role in shaping the personality of a child. It is giving the inputs, it gives the lessons which the child will be using outside the school. It will be trying to use that knowledge absorbed here in the school outside world, and it will relate it. Now when we talk about the curriculum, the important aspect is the quality. In ever increasing quality program is a part of curriculum, and so lot of emphasis was given on quality education. Various committees were called up, they have brought in, they have introduced their own ideas into it, and so the even Maharashtra state adopted various principles through it. So let us have a cursory view of all these things. So dealing with this, the first point I would like to focus is about the National Policy of Education, which was introduced in 1968. It was an important milestone into this curriculum and education system because it recommended very first time the bringing up of the all languages, that is uniformity in the language policies all over the state. And dear teachers, we must know that this was the committee, National Education Commission, appointed under the leadership or under the chairmanship of Dr. Kothari. It tried up for that, and then so on. Immediately, a primary education curriculum of 1968 was framed, and it tried to bring up the uniformity because during that time, Maharashtra state government had different curriculum. It was with different aspects. So it tried to bring it all together for the development and improvement in the outcome of the students. Then, importantly, the inclusion of education in the concurrent schedule. This was an important landmark because now the education was not just with the state, it was not just with the union, but it was with both of them. That is, they must form the policy where there would be the uniform education system in the nation. And so under that, efforts were taken so that the nation, that is at the national level, certain principles may be given and they may be followed and observed by the state, so that at whole India will have the uniform pattern of education system. And so at the same time it was also thought of that the local conditions of that state and even the culture and tradition of that state will be maintained and retained. Then the various policies went kept on coming, that is the National Education Policy of 1986, then Primary Education Curriculum of 1988, and especially of this 1988 Primary Education Curriculum, it aimed at inclusion of expected learning outcome, especially for the bringing up the desired changes. That is, every time when we teach something, when we go through any education system, we talk of the outcome that will come up. And so it spoke largely about that. And then later on, the competency based evaluation systems, primary education system of 1995 was introduced. Then the National Curriculum Framework of 2000, Primary Education Curriculum 2004, and so on. And every time there was the curriculum revised. Every time state went on doing so. And why? The only answer for this is that as per the changing conditions, as per the changing global conditions, it was a need of the hour that the curriculum also may undergo the change. So, as per the conditions, every time there were the alterations made and the curriculum was updated. So, when we talk about these all aspects, in the next slide you are able to see some more principles which are dealing with this, that talk about the core elements. Now these core elements are the part of given in the National Curriculum Framework. When we talk about the education system, give the focus to the National Curriculum Framework, and we continue focusing and following the principles and the guidelines that are given in the National Curriculum Framework. So those elements, those things are followed. Then with all these aspects, the management of information, that is giving whatever the updated knowledge, whatever the modern technology is introduced, that should be observed, and even that information should be properly, in a proper manner, should be given to the students. Then it also talks about the lifelong education. We are aware that there is no end to the education. Through every learning experience, through every learning outcome, we get something or other. And so, it should not assume that learning ends. Rather, when the child steps out of the school, his learning begins, because whatever he has learnt in school, he will be developing his knowledge on the basis of the previous knowledge that he has acquired in the school. So, everybody needs to master techniques of self-learning to continue the learning. Then, whatever the sources are available, whatever the different resources are available, should be used up in a proper mutual coordination way. There should be the coordination, there should be the linking, and with that, all these resources should be used. Then use of technology, we are well aware of it, that today the technology plays an important role. It is a double-edged weapon. If it is used and handled properly, surely it will give the outcome, it will give the benefits to us. And so, if we use this technology in a proper manner to reach to the students, to give them the learning experience, then surely it is to work and it has to exist in this system. Then the inculcation of values. Now, here we are not talking about all the general values that we think of. We are here talking about the values which are included in the Constitution and consequently listed in the National Curriculum Framework as well as in the State Curriculum Framework. It also talks about linking the students and the parents and the teachers together so that it will form a chain, and surely if all these three systems come together, education's aim is fulfilled, and even parents and teachers togetherly can work to bring the expected learning outcome through the child. And so this is largely focused. Now, moving ahead, you are able to see on the next slide the guiding principles. Now, what are these guiding principles? These are the guiding principles given by the National Curriculum Framework. Let us go through these all principles. The very first principle that is mentioned here is linking knowledge to life outside the school. It focuses that whatever the child is learning in school is also related to his outside world. Otherwise, it was always observed that what the child is learning in the school, whatever he is getting in the curriculum and the textbook, has nothing to do with his outside world, nothing to do with what he is dealing with the outside. And so it is talking about focusing on linking this knowledge with the outside world. So whatever the child is learning, he must be able to apply it in the outside world, and that is how the use of education will be. Then ensuring that learning shifted from rote learning or memorization. It is not just that mugging up of the answers, reproducing it, because memorization will remain as a temporary part, temperament it would be. Just for temporary time, children learn, mug up and reproduce the answers. Whether they understood the concept or not, that was never tested. So it has largely focused to escape from the rote learning or memorization. Here, largely the scope is given to the understanding of the content, understanding of the term, and even applying it. That is most important. Only understanding and knowing is not important, but applying it outside the world or even in any situation is important. Then it also talks about that textbook is just a medium. It is not everything. We must move out of the text. It is just not the end. It is just the beginning. It is like a guideline, and that is how teachers should keep this in mind. They must remember that it is just like a help for them to understand and explain the terms, and they should bring in various other experiences to the students which will help them gain the knowledge, and interest in the subject too is maintained. Then it also talks about making examinations more flexible and integrated into classroom life. We are well aware that in 2009, Right to Education Act was applied, and once this was accepted, and must know teachers that Maharashtra is the state which has used this for the first time, and it is the first state to use the continuous comprehension evaluation. It is the first state to use this system of evaluation. And under this, the formative evaluation and summative evaluation is carried. Here there is a flexibility. It is not asking to judge the students only on the basis of what they reproduce, but it is asking us to judge them on the basis of their understanding at various levels. Let it be the practicals, projects, activities, oral performance, or maybe the writing of the any story. It can be any experience, narrating experiences, or it can also mean as even the putting down whatever their observations are. So there is a flexibility, and teachers are expected to assess students on all these grounds, because there is no answer in this world which can be accepted as the wrong answer. Each and every answer that has come up from the student is the right answer and is the correct answer. Then it talks also about the overriding identity informed by caring concerns within the democratic policy of the country. That means it also has to focus on the democratical principles of the country. There should be no content which will surpass the wrong meaning about it. So, keeping these values, keeping these principles, the curriculum is framed. Now, when we move ahead with the next slide, you are able to see the objectives of the curriculum and syllabus of Standard 6. This syllabus is based on the guiding principles that we have studied. It also refers to the National Curriculum Framework, and with this all, it is been framed. Now, first very principle, if you are observing it in this slide, you will be able to see that to be familiar with the relations between cause and effect behind the incidences in surrounding. Here, it wants every child to observe. Every child will bring up its own observations, associated knowledge, and allow them to bring in their own experiences, and that is how they will learn to rather concrete up their knowledge through whatever abstracts they have gained. It also talks about to make a thoughtful use of natural resources. Through this subject, it tries to inculcate the value to protect our environment. Children will be aware of what are the resources, how they are limited, and how we are supposed to use them. If we use them properly, surely we are able to get it in future. Otherwise, there is nothing